Welcome to another section of my data end-to-end data engineering project with Microsoft Fabric. And in this section, we are going to be, or I am going to be performing sentiment analysis using Synapse Data Science tool. So let's hop right in. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open this in a new tab. Or just going to open another app.power BI. What's it called? Tab. Yes, I'm going to go down, or I'll just click on end-to-end data engineering project workspace. Let's get into our right workspace. And yes, I'll go to this Power BI icon here and I'll click on the data science tool. So the Synapse Data Science tool. So this is going to be a very simple process, but if you look at this now, there's a lot of things you can do on Microsoft Fabric related to data science. You can create a model, you can experiment, you can create a new notebook and things like that. And so, yeah, in this uh, Snap Data Engineering project, sentiment analysis using the Snap Data Science tool step is just going to be very simple. We're going to do the normal routine of model training. We're not going to, but in this our case, we're not going to do the normal routine of model training, tuning, performing experiments, runs, etc. Instead, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be performing the sentiment analysis, making use of pre-trained machine learning model. So we're going to make use of a already pre-trained machine learning model. We're not going to be trying to configure the model in terms of tuning, fine-tuning, training, and things like that. We're going to be using a pre-trained, pre-built machine learning model. So the main reason is that data science aspect um, is the main reason I included in this project is just to be able to explore and maybe also learn important tools in Microsoft Fabrics related data science and how they work together with other steps, the data engineering step, the transformation, the pipelines, and things like that. I want to just understand more how everything works hand in hand. I think as someone who's trying to be a data engineer, I think that's a very important thing to understand. So yes, in this workspace, you are seeing a lot of things, basic analytics, data analysis using SQL, Medallion. If you go to the area of recommended items to create, you see an ML model, experiment notebooks. If I click on this, I'll see more things, AI preview, things like that, right? There's a lot of things going on here, and they're all related to data science. So all things needed to by data scientists to build machine learning models are basically readily made available in Microsoft Fabric. So for sentiment analysis, we're going to make use of a notebook. So I'll just click on notebook all the way here. So I create a new notebook, create a notebook. I clicked on that a bit. I'll just go back and delete notebooks that I'm not using, but that will be later. So yes, create a new notebook. Welcome to your notebook. And here we can type in our cell editor to code. We get that part. So the first thing I'll do for this for this process is just let's change the name of the notebook to news sentiment analysis. News sentiment analysis. So I'm just going to start by renaming the notebook to something I feel is better, or will just help us identify our notebook easily. So that's good. We have renamed the notebook. So yeah, remember what we've done before was data transformation using Synapse Data Engineering tool. So basically that's the data engineer's process in this work. So in this section, we're going to be doing the work of or playing the role of a data scientist to do machine learning and data science work on the already clean data. So the data was in a JSON structure. It was ingested from the Bing News API and it's been cleaned into a well-structured Delta table. So in this case, we're not going to be making use of the ready-made, ready clean data sets. So yes, that's what we're going to do in our case. So we're basically going to be using the clean table, which we already have from the Lakehouse database for performing sentiment analysis. So first of all, I mean, if you look all the way here, lake houses, you see 0. So I would start by adding, or let's say attaching, the lakehouse database so that we can be able to easily reference it or use it in our notebook. So I'll go all the way to lakehouses and you see add. I'm going to click on add. So there are a lot of options here, but I don't want to be confused too much. I think I don't know if you remember the step I did doing the data transformation in Synapse with Synapse Data Engineering. It's also similar. So I'm going to choose, which one am I going to choose? Existing lakehouse without schema. So I'm going to click on add and something pops up. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm not so sure. Okay. If I go to Explorer, I'll just click on the end-to-end DE project. I know that's the workspace our database, our table is. So I'm going to click on add. Yeah, that's how our clean table is. And yeah, wait for it to load a bit, and our table, which was transformed and cleaned into a good format suitable for our use, has been created, has been brought into the Lakehouse database. So yes, we have it all the way here. So as a data scientist, we can now make use of this table to perform the sentiment analysis. So first of all, I will just it's into the Lakehouse database, but let's load it in with Spark. So load data with Spark. So our data has been loaded, and I'm just going to edit it a bit. I'm going to just remove this limit 1000. I don't think it's important for our work. Yes, so select all, design SQL query, Spark SQL query, select all from Bing Lake database, the latest news. So basically, I'm bringing everything from this table and I'm pressing display df. So I saved as a variable called df, so I'm going to display it. Quite interesting. Before I run this, I'm just going to remove this chunk of code, so I don't think it's necessary. So yes, I can go ahead and run this. And when it's run, you see our table being displayed. So let's give this a while. After a short while, we'll be able to see our table. So it's running, session started, 15 seconds, 16, 18. Let's just give it a while. Why is it taking time? Okay, it's soon be there. Yeah, so what's basically going to show up is our table. So yes, this is our clean table. So I just basically brought it in here, and we're going to do some interesting sentimental analysis with a pre-trained model. Very interesting stuff. So yeah, and how are we going to, or how do I plan to perform this sentiment analysis? Excuse me. I'll be performing the sentiment analysis, making use of Synapse machine learning. Synapse machine learning. I think I don't know if you're previous, or if you are one that's used Fabric before and maybe machine learning on Fabric, you might know the Synapse machine learning tool. So was actually formerly known as MML Spark. So what am I even talking about? What is this Synapse machine learning? It's an open source library that simplified the creation of massively scalable machine learning pipelines. So it provides simple, composable, and distributed APIs for a wide variety of different machine learning tasks, things like text analytics, anomaly detection, etc. So Snap's machine learning, it's supported natively in Microsoft Fabric. So basically what I'm saying is that we can be able to use all these features of this model, machine learning model, and it's very cool, very interesting. And the actual main feature which we'll be using is the pre-built intelligent models. So Snap's ML, Snap Machine Learning Tool, ML, has a wide variety of pre-built machine learning models available. And specifically, the pre-built model that we're going to be using for this end-to-end data engineering project, this step, that we're going to be doing this data science sentiment analysis work, is we're going to help us, like the actual specific preview model we're going to make use of is going to be able to help us predict the sentiment of the news article. So we're trying to see, okay, this news article that we've been able to ingest, that we're seeing in this role, is the news article, is it positive news, is it negative news? Is it even a neutral news? Something like that. We're going to be trying to figure out uh, that. So in our data frame, you can see lots of columns showing useful data. And where we're going to be using the column we're interested in or the aspect of our data we're interested in figuring out the sentiment is going to be the description. So I can click on this. Basically, I'm going to say, okay, each description per row, each description per row is going to be a news article. It reads the description, the Synapse reads the description and tries to figure out, okay, is this positive? Is this negative? So we're basically using the text content in each description to see the sentiment of the news. So to go ahead and do all these things I'm talking about, I have to write a new set of code. So for that, I'll just create a new code cell below. Yeah. So what let's go ahead and attempt this next step that I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and attempt it. Let's go ahead and start working with what we want to do in the appropriate way. So let's go ahead and start writing the code that's going to help us kickstart this important or this fun project. So we're going to be importing a snaps.ml core library. So import snaps.ml.core library. And from that library, okay, from on that library, snaps.ml.services, snaps.ml.services, we're going to import analyze text. Import analyze text. Oops, I am writing this wrongly. Import analyze text. That's very good. So from here on out is where the work actually starts. So from library, we're importing from the library, basically the snaps.ml call, specifically the ml.services. We're going to be importing a pre-trained model called the analyze text. So let's run the cell. And yeah, let's run the code cell. And now at this point, we have imported the necessary library needed um, to work with the ML model and stuff. So yeah, the next part of this, I mean, just the library importation part. I've never started yet, so let's actually start. The next part of the step, we need to write code to configure the model, and for that, I will just I'll paste a set of code that will help us easily do this. I don't want to make everything so long, so I'm just gonna paste a set of code I've prepared already. That'll help us do this. So this is the code that's gonna help us with the next step. And what is actually going on here? That's the question, and I will explain. So we're importing the model and we're configuring the input and output columns. But yeah, it's not that self-explanatory yet. So I'm just going to explain what's going on here. I've been able to copy and paste the code cell or the code that's going to help us with the next step. But what's actually going on here? Basically, the code snippets that you can see here utilizes the analyze text transformer to perform sentiment analysis on a given text column that we're going to specify. So we see model equals to analyze text. So this part, initiates an instance of the analyze text transformer. So the set text code description sets the input column containing the text to be analyzed to description. So basically, this is where we're going to analyze. This is the text area. This is the column where we're going to get the text to analyze. Yeah, that's what's going on there. Set.kind, what does it do? And you see sentiment analysis there. What's actually going on is that it specifies the type of analysis to be performed as a sentiment analysis. Basically, this indicates that the model should determine the sentiment being positive, either being negative, or being neutral expressed in the text. So the next thing you see here is .set output call response. So what happens here is that this defines the name of the output column that will store the sentiment analysis results. So we now see the last line here is .set error call error. So this creates a column to store any potential errors encountered during the analysis. So what's going on here is that in essence, this code that you're seeing, this entire code here configures the analyze text transformer to analyze the text in the description, column, determine the sentiment, and store the results in the response column. So the error column there will be used to capture any exceptions or issues which may likely arise during the analysis. So yeah, let's go ahead, and I think we are good to go to run this kind of code. I've explained, I've seen what it does. So I think we can run it now. We just go to enter. Cool. I'm liking the results. So I've configured the model, and now we can use this model to predict the sentiments of news article easily. So to predict the sentiment of a news article, just one more step is needed. Is that we say results. So we're creating a new variable called results, and the variable called result is going to be what's the word, equal to model dot transform. So we're using this model here, model dot transform. We're using the results here, df. We're applying the model. Basically, what's going on here is that we're applying the model on our data frame called df. And not just that, our data frame df, we're also saving the results as a variable called results. Let's run this. Of course, we are not seeing anything yet. So to see something, to see the results, it's going to be very interesting. So I'll just say display. Let's say display. What are we displaying? We're going to be displaying the result, right? Let's let it run. Let's let it run, and you'd see the result of the transform data frame. Let's let it run. So in our transform data frame, we're going to see the result of we're applying this machine learning model and nice text to our work. So this is quite cool. This is the results. We're seeing two new columns actually. We're seeing the former data frame columns, everything that was there, the title, description, category, URL, things like that. And we're also seeing two new columns here, the error and response. So let me click on the response and see what's going on. Response, I'm seeing like something like a JSON structure, something is in a JSON structure. I'm seeing negative. I'm seeing documents, I'm seeing other things, but I'm able to see the results inside the JSON structure. And yeah, it's quite okay. I mean, we see if there's an error here and there. It's quite okay, but I don't think this is the final form of our work, or this should be the final form of our work. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make sure that this response or the sentiment, maybe I'll even rename the column, is stored in a new column, of course, but without this other JSON structure things affecting it. So I just want to see, is it negative? Is it positive? Is it neutral? Straight away. I don't want any other thing within a column or things like that. So yeah, so that's what we see, that's what's going on, and let's go ahead and implement that, or run a code that will help us implement what we just talked about. We don't want the JSON structure, we just want the sentiment, either positive, negative, neutral. We don't want any kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new code cell. So in that new code cell, I'll paste the code that does the trick for us. So I've already written it somewhere. I'm pasting the code that will do the trick for us. So yes, I'm creating a sentiment column. So from SparkSQL.functions in both column, and you can see we're assigning these results to the column sentiment. What's going on here? We're assigning to the sentiment to a variable called sentiment df. To a variable called sentiment df. And yes, I will go ahead to what's the word? I'm about to run this. But before I run this, let's just give a basic explanation of what's going on. It's very simple. So the create sentiment column. Yeah, so what's going on here is basically what this line of code. Let me underline it. Create a new data frame called sentiment there by adding a new column called sentiment. to the existing data frame. So that's just what's good. It's quite straightforward. The value for the sentiment column is extracted from the response column. So we're using this, we're trying to basically we're just extracting just the sentiment from this JSON structure in the response column. That's what we're going to do. Just the sentiment. That's what's going on. Basically, the code creates a new data frame called sentiment df. You get that part with an additional column called sentiment that stores the sentiment information extracted from previous analysis. So I think it's quite straightforward, and we should run this and see what goes on. So let's run that. Actually, while that is running, I'll just say display. Let's display. Let's actually display the result. I don't see us displaying anything here, so I'll display sentiment df. So after that runs, I will run this code to display the full results. So it's still running for some reason. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run all. I just saw session reconnected. I'm going to run all. Let everything run from the top to the bottom. So yes, I have been able to run it all. And yes, you can see a new column called sentiment, and things are going on a bit better here. So we still have the response column, which we're going to drop eventually very soon. But you can see how it is. You can see neutral in some places. We can see sentiment. I mean, hey, we don't have the JSON structure that was obstructing, that was making everything look, what's the word, look packed. We have been able to isolate that away and create a new column for this. So I think at this step in our data science process, we can go ahead and remove some columns here. So I don't think we need the response column anymore, because JSON structure, the thing like it's in JSON structure, and there are a lot of things going on which I've been able to refine into a sentiment column. And yes, we don't need the error column, so I'm quite satisfied with this. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove the unnecessary columns. So two columns, we're dropping two columns. So in a new code cell, I am going to do this. I'm going to do that in a new code cell. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste some set of code, some set of code, which will help us. Or I'll just write it down. I mean, it's very easy. I don't need to copy and paste anything. An easy code. So in a new code cell, I'm just going to say, I'm going to call the new results of our data frame sentiment final. Or should I say final sentiment? But sentiment final is cool too. Sentiment final is going to be equal to sentiment. So what's the name of our data frame? Our previous one, sentiment df, right? So I'm basically saying sentiment df dot drop. We're dropping two things: the error column and the response column. So sentiment df dot drop, and we're dropping two things. We're dropping the error, and we are dropping the spelled correctly. We're dropping the response. So I'm just going to, under this, I'm just going to say display. Oh, sorry for my spellings. Display sentiment final. So we can just have everything show in one result. Sentiment final. Let's run this. And we see the new result, our new data frame, looking very crisp, looking very nice. I love it. So our sentiments, we don't have those two errors and things like that. Did publish, of course, it's wonderful. It's awesome. Yeah, yeah. This is very beautiful. It's a very good result. And we're basically almost done with the with the sentiment process. Basically, we already have the sentiment. So I'm basically done. But I think at this point of our code that we're satisfied, we can just still do one or two things that are very important. Or let's say one thing, but let's see what we're going to do, because there's something we can still do from here. So, yeah, or let me just play around with this. I'll click on a president election avoids jail. I'm saying president-elect avoids jail as he escapes punishment in hush money case. So, jail, criminal, in the writing and in the description. So you can see the sentiment being negative. So I think it picks up keywords, and things like jail and criminal, they're negative. So of course that's going to be a negative sentiment. So that's how it's working there. And yes, we are basically done, but we're just going to do one more thing at this stage. And what we're going to do is we're going to write this final data frame that we have that has the sentiment and all that. So we're going to write it to our lakehouse database. So just like we saved the result of the Synapse Data Engineering to a table called TB latest news, we're going to do the same for this, save it to our lakehouse database. So that's what we're going to do. And I think we'll call it a day after that. So we'll basically be done with the data science steps after that. What's the data science step after that? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy and paste the similar code we used prior to in our previous data transformation step and things like that. I already have the code copied and pasted, and I just edited a few things. So I'm going to be saving our results to a Lakehouse database from PySpark to the SQL, the utils, import, analysis section. So there's just quite a few different things that now this is the same code, but slightly different in the sense that this is the same code we use in our data transformation step to save the results. Remember the type 1 slowly change dimension that we used that we always get the latest updates um, of the news into a data frame, to a data frame. So in that case, basically in essence, if there is a duplicate news, it won't be ingested, it won't be saved to our lakehouse database. Only new versions. I mean, we're not saving other versions too. So only new things get entered, only new things get entered, only new things get entered. We don't have a history. But yeah, this is a very good way to save our results to our lakehouse database. So a few changes, of course, the table name Bing Lake. I changed it to Bing Lake database, of course, TBL sentiment analysis. That's a new name. The data frame name was also changed. I mean, the sentiment final dot writes, save as table name and things like that. So we just change the data frame name, the name, view sentiment dear final. So to reflect our current situation. So I think I could go ahead and run this code and sentiment dear final is not defined. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Sentiment dear final. Of right. So sentiment final. So I called it sentiment final. Excuse me. I made a mistake in my distance. Sentiment final, not dear final. Sentiment final. Sentiment final. So I'm just gonna edit this. Sentiment final. Sentiment final also, not dear final. Yeah. So let me run it again. So when this is run, so in progress, 2 jobs successful. So I think it's gonna be a success, and that's quite good. So it's finished running. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna refresh the table to see if it reflects in our layout. Yes, ideal sentiment analysis. It reflects we are good to go. It reflects we are good to go. We are good to go. Yeah. So in our Lakers database, you can see that we have created a table which contains sentiment predicted for the news articles. So at this point in time, we can see that the sentiment analysis section has been completed.